All right, I say get started. Go, Brad.
Whoop, whoop. All right, everybody, thank you for joining us today, wrapping up a full week of helping you culminate to this one very moment, right? Creating an effective marketing plan, how all of the things that we talked about blend together and actually showcase, hey, this is a plan, not just that shiny object mentality, right? So when you're working on marketing, when you're looking at any new initiative, when you're pulling stuff together, it's all about how does that work in cohesion with everything else that you're doing. So today we're going to cover those key steps that pull all these things together and really help you create a full plan for the next year, as opposed to just trying this and trying that and never really getting too much traction because you're not sticking with something long enough to see that it works. So if this is the first day that you're tuning in, I am from White Glove. A little bit about us. We kind of changed the industry, if you will, when it comes to seminars back in 2015. We came onto the scene with a very simple business model where we did all the work setting up the events. We did all the marketing. We paid for everything up front and took all the risk. And advisors only paid for attended households, and they paid after their event. So they're only paying on what we could actually deliver for them. We thought we were so gosh darn good at it, we even guaranteed you'd pick up a client. That led us to see tremendous growth from a few employees in the basement of a couple of financial advisors firm who started White Glove to 130 employees doing 700 in-person events every single month all across the US and Canada. Flash forward to today, we adapted just like our advisors did, and we now offer seminars, webinars, direct consultations, which I'm going to show you guys here towards the end, as well as a robust nurturing platform through our Social Connect. So as we get started, just a quick recap of what we've learned so far. As we move into this digital and live hybrid, let's take a look back at what works. 2019, we knew that if you're doing in-person seminars, that education was higher converting than a sales seminar. And that really speaks true to any model that you're doing, that if you lead with an education and you showcase yourself as a professional, that gives a more positive and trustworthy appearance than you trying to sell something. We understood the importance of websites, but we were a little concerned of what happens with social media and our website's going to stay relevant. And email was a great tool in 2019. So 2020 happens, all of a sudden the entire industry and the consumer side of it had to adapt to video. It still remains in high demand. And there's all these new abilities to meet people virtually. We learned when you're doing webinars that you can rebroadcast, scale, expand your geographical area so there's no more backyard, if you will. So 2021 and beyond, what does that look like? Well, we have to revisit that past success and then add on a fresh take. The found credibility from that having a robust virtual presence, if you will, speaks volumes without you having to push accolades. Seminars, webinars combined, they set you apart as an educator. And if you get comfortable with both of them, you can see unlimited amounts of prospects. And you know what? We have new channels. We have the social media has really exploded. The virtual appointments are working very well. So you have these new channels and the tried and true methods of the seminars and educational events. Those still are coming back, and that creates this hybrid of what is working today and what works in the future. So today, we're going to talk about how to blend all of that together and build yourself a very effective marketing plan so that you're not just guessing and jumping from shiny object to shiny object. And we're really going to cover 4 main components when it comes to having a marketing plan. First, you want to set your funnel. You might think leads should be first, right? You got to pile the leads in. But first, you want to set your funnel. You need a robust virtual presence. You need to be optimized to capture leads and feed those channels and have them feed each other. Because if you're just spending money on leads and you don't have this system in place, you don't have a funnel in place, you're going to be wasting money. Second, we're going to talk about filling your pipeline, how you can lead with value, how you can really attract the right clientele, and then how you can focus on introductions over just lead generation. But we're going to show you how you can fill your pipeline. So you're going to start with your funnel, then you're going to start pumping leads into it, and then it all comes down to nurturing. Education about sales. We're going to talk about social, website, and email. And then finally, the final step of the process is not just gaining opportunities, but turning those into advocates. And that's going to be really based on ongoing value, a multi-channel communication, and you have to make yourself easy to refer. You have to. And in today's virtual world, there's a lot of really unique ways to do that. So let's go ahead and jump right in. We're going to talk about setting the funnel. So what that means is when you're getting leads, when you're getting prospects, whenever you're prepared to grow your business, there's this amazing opportunity right now of found credibility. And what that means is, we all know your reputation matters, but your prospects can find your accolades without you telling them. They can find you now easier than ever if you're focused on those correct channels. That does have its downsides. You might not be able to be found. You might not be found credible or not relevant. You may have outdated things out there, or your competition is ranking higher than you are. So let's talk about what builds that actual funnel. So you start with that found credibility, but let's look at how do you build that? And when you're pouring these leads in, what are they going to be seeing from you? So between Google, LinkedIn, and Facebook, you're going to reach 90% of your desired audience. And it's all about where you're found and how you capture their ongoing attention. Okay, so you might be able to buy a lead and grab their attention right off the bat, or they might visit your website, or they might scroll past you and see on your Facebook. But how do you capture their ongoing attention? Because there's only two ways to turn a prospect into a client. And that is, one, you turn that light bulb on for them and say, hey, you need my help. This is why. And they say, oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. I do need your help. Or you're the only person they can think of when something in their life happens and they say, hey, I need help. Okay. So if we're going to be building a funnel for you, here's a couple of quick things to look at. LinkedIn, 70% of your prospects are going to research you on LinkedIn before they reach out. Found credibility speaks volume compared to push to accolades. And if you can set up your profile as you would a resume or an advertisement, then you're going to see that you can actually capture those people and their ongoing attention. So Facebook, your prospects are getting their updates from Facebook. You need to keep it professional yet human. And then finally, Google My Business. A lot of the stuff we talked about yesterday, if you want more in-depth knowledge on that and you weren't able to attend, just reach out and we'll get you the recording for that. But Google My Business is hyper local search, and we want you to be found. And all of these things, they pair together so that when you have a lead, they're going to be able to find you on LinkedIn, find you on Facebook, Google you, and see that you exist. And you have to have processes in place before you start filling that funnel. If you have your funnel in place before that pipeline, then you're going to lead to optimum conversions and reduced churn. One of the best things to think about, oftentimes advisors will do a seminar. We'll take 40 registrations, 20 will show up in attendance, they'll book 10 meetings, they'll pick up 2 clients, and they take the other 38 and they throw them in the trash, essentially, because there's no process in place to put them into an actual funnel. There's no credibility for those leads to find that person online and stay connected. So in today's environment, you have to be available. And what that means is having access to you as easy as possible in the way they want to reach out to you. So one easy way to do that is to set up calendar access across all your platforms. Get yourself a Calendly link or a similar application. Put that on your LinkedIn profile, put that in your email newsletters and on your Facebook, mention it in your webinars or seminars. Even heck, throw that into your email signature so people can find time to meet with you. You want to be as accessible as possible when it comes to, hey, I've got a question. They need to know how to reach out to you. And I strongly suggest just throwing that getting a calendar app so that people can reach you very easily. And what you want to do is to be found where they're looking, right? And have credible resources on there. So if they are stalking you on LinkedIn, you need to have that resume ready. You need to have content on there that shows that you're a professional, right? Credible resources. You can have rankings on LinkedIn. You can put white papers on there. You could shoot a webinar and post that on your LinkedIn site so that they can go on there and watch it, right? Same thing with Facebook. Look at that as your website, your extension of your website. You want to be very credible on there, and you want to have that availability where they know how to connect with you on all of those places. Okay. One thing to keep in mind, you have to be driven by data. As an entrepreneur, many advisors fall into the trap of, I'm going to do this by my gut, and they don't track it. And you have to, if you don't now, invest in a CRM. You have to have software so you can see your clients' data, see where your leads are turning into prospects, where you're getting your highest ROI, and what is actually working. And the only way you're going to do that is if you track it. And that can't be through Outlook. That can't be through an Excel or a Google Sheet. You might get away with that for a little while, but get yourself a CRM so you can see where their leads are coming in, how long they sit in the system before they turn into a client, and what your conversion ratios are. You can only manage by what you can actually measure. So you have to be driven by data. So pay attention to all of those things. Yeah, I strongly suggest looking into a CRM. And you know what? I will be 100% honest. CRMs are not fun, right? I've used countless CRMs. At White Glove, we used Infusionsoft and HubSpot and Salesforce and a myriad of other things to help track our data. And it's never fun. It's always work, but that's the only way you can actually see where you're getting your highest ROI. Is you have to be able to measure it, and you have to be able to track that data. And one final thing to think about is when you're getting these processes in place, you have to be available, you have to pay attention to the data, but you also have to plug up any leaks. And a lot of that just means that you have to have some automated processes in place that ensure you're not missing an opportunity. If somebody connects with you in your newsletter or reaches out to you on Facebook, put them into, if nothing else, get them into a drip campaign, get them into a nurturing sequence so that if you forget to call, 30 days later after they said, I'm not interested now, they're still hearing from you, right? That could be a weekly newsletter. That could be encouraging them to follow you on Facebook so they see your posts regularly, but you have to have a process in place before you fill that funnel so that you're not leaking and you're not missing opportunities. Because again, not everybody's going to want to buy from you right now. Not everybody's going to sign up and be a client. They might not have those pain points in their life today, but in 6 months and 8 months and 2 years, when they do, you want to make sure that you've pleasantly and persistently stayed top of mind with them. And it's not always right now that's important, right? It's that building of that book, building of that base, so that when those moments happen in their lives, they do turn around and say, hey, you know what? I need some help. So a lot of these are very broad topics that we dove into earlier yesterday, but for some very simple starting points across these platforms, I want to help you just get started today and something to look at first. So LinkedIn, I strongly suggest your LinkedIn looks nice, right? So review it today with a fresh set of eyes and just answer 2 questions. Do I look credible? Do I look current? Okay, because 70% of your prospects are going to research you on LinkedIn. Are they finding you credible? Are they finding you current? So take a look at that today. Go on your LinkedIn profile. If you do, stalk me, shoot me a connection request. I'd love to connect with you, but absolutely go on there and just give it a fresh set of eyes, right? Facebook, very simply, grab a lifestyle type photo from the office and share that on your business page. Just something, right? If one of your coworkers had a great fishing trip, if you did an office party recently, if somebody had a birthday, something professional but shows more of a lifestyle. We want to see that you're a human being. Share that on your business Facebook page. Grab something this weekend, put that up there on Monday. Very simply, just start getting that type of content out there. Google My Business, look at it, claim it, review it. You may already have a Google business page. And if you have not claimed it yet, you need to start going through that process. If you have claimed it, take a look through it, review it. Are there photos on there? Is there any content you can add to it? Is the website, phone number, is that stuff accurate? If compliance allows, is there a way to get more positive reviews on there? But those 3 simple steps are really going to set you apart in the virtual realm. So if you haven't done those simple things yet, right? Look at your LinkedIn profile. Is it credible? Is it current? Post something lifestyle oriented on your business Facebook page to show that you're a human being that runs that business, and Google My Business, claim it, review it in the same kind of fashion you would for LinkedIn there. And finally, set up your calendar. If you don't already have a calendar link, get that, Calendly or something similar, and get that linked it, post it, make yourself accessible, add that to the emails, put that on your LinkedIn and Facebook pages, make sure it's on the website, those sort of things. Make yourself accessible so that when a lead has a question, they know exactly how to reach out to you. So this is kind of building that funnel, right? So when someone says, "Ooh, you know what, I might have a question," these things help them find you credible and help you stay in front of them, so that there's a process in place where you're not missing opportunities. At that point, once you've got those basics down, now it's time to start filling your pipeline. And there's a variety of ways to get that. There's a variety of ways to find leads. So let's take a look at the different prospects and how they may fit your business and which ones are for you. So taking a look of what options are out there. Seminars, White Glove, we're a big fan of seminars. It's hard to beat standing in front of somebody and them listening to you for an hour and finding out that you're a credible human being, right? It's hard to beat that. It's kind of the old standard. It's been around for a really long time. It absolutely has worked, and we're going to show you some of the data that is working on it. Seminars aren't coming back. They're 100% back. And it's just so easy for a lot of advisors to look someone face to face and then give that handshake and say, "Okay, this is who I am," right? Okay, so that's one. If you're the handshake type of person, that's what you want to do. You want to look somebody in the whites of their eyes. Seminars is an absolute fantastic way to stress your credibility, especially through an educational topic. Webinars, these remain to be effective, but only for the advisor that has adapted, that is willing to adapt. And a big part of that is not just running the webinar and getting better at that presentation, but you have to also be comfortable meeting and follow up virtually, because that's how your prospects want to meet with you. They signed in to do a webinar. They don't always want to then hop in a car and come down to the office, especially not for that first meeting, which is good for you as well. You can make it efficient so that that first meeting is a 15-minute high level question, right fit meeting to decide, well, do I want to spend an hour with this person? So webinars, they remain to be effective even in areas where in-person events have come back, because a subset of your ideal prospects absolutely still want to meet virtually. They've learned they can sit at home, they can learn like we're learning today, and they never have to leave their house, and they can do it in their pajamas. And that comfort level is a huge bonus when it comes to an attendee feeling like they are comfortable and willing to reach out to you. So don't discredit that, but you have to be able to adapt to having those virtual meetings and follow-ups. You can run webinars in your area and then try to get people to meet you in person. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not saying that. But if you're willing to have that virtual meeting, a Zoom meeting, 15-minute right fit call, answer some high level questions, that's going to make your seminar appointment rates go up when that option is easy for them to meet with you. And they've already proven that that's how they want to get their information, because they signed up and attended. So finally, leads versus introductions, right? Leads, there's many lead options out there, but I would just say be very careful on what constitutes an actual lead, okay? There's companies that buy Google words. So when somebody searches retirement, someone searches annuities, they say, "Hey, do you want to read a paper about annuities?" They read a paper. When they do that, they enter their information. That's now a lead, right? And they have no desire to talk to anybody. They feel blindsided when you call them. And it's a different process, right? It's not bad, but it's a very different process than having seminars or webinars where they see you, right? Seminars, you're in person, they saw you talk, it's usually 60 to 90 minutes. Webinars, they didn't see you in person, but they at least got to see your face and hear you for about 45 minutes. And then leads out, it's different than introductions, but a lead, they may never have heard you. They may have a general interest in the topic, but make sure when you're going into those conversations that you understand that there is a lot of work to go from a lead to a conversation. It's going to be slower. They might be very interested. They could have just been doing a research paper, right, and search the word annuities. But there is work that needs to be done that goes from a lead to a conversation. So it's just depending on what business model you want. Really, all three of these could fit your practice, depending on your level, your desire of follow-up, all of those sorts of things, and where you're at in your practice. So let's dive in a little bit to each of these lead generation mentalities here. So seminars, absolutely, they are back. White Glove is right now seeing a higher appointment set rate at seminars. Potential clients, they absolutely have questions that need answers. Educational venues, we're seeing about a 54% attendance rate right now. We've done a ton of work on what types of venues work best. I'm going to tell you right now, libraries, community centers, educational venues, take your ego out of it a little bit. It's not about the nicest lobby. It's not about the water feature out front. It's not about the country club, bouginess. It's about, do your attendees feel comfortable, and do they think they're going to get an education, or are they afraid they're going to get sold to? So when you're talking about a seminar, look at that local community center that maybe isn't as polished as the country club. Okay. And the reason isn't because they're going to look at you, oh, the country club, you must be so fancy, right? Take your ego out of it a little bit and say, hey, the community center, I've never sold anything at a community center. I've learned things at a community center, right? A small local college. Is it easy to get from the parking lot to the room? Those are the types of things that you should look at from a seminar perspective when you're doing an educational setting. Now, food seminars. We've heard for years, plate liquors. We have a lot of advisors that say, I'll never do a food seminar again. Some advisors love it, and that's all they want to do. We're seeing very strong attendance for dinner seminars and lunch and learns. And interestingly enough, on the attendee side, they're saying, well, I feel more comfortable at a restaurant because I know the COVID protocols. I know that the restaurant's clean. I understand, do I have to wear a mask? Do I not have to wear a mask? Where can I sit? I understand all of that because I've recently been at a restaurant. Your ideal prospect may have never stepped foot in a library or a community center in the last year and a half. So think about that when you're talking seminars and you're wondering, should I do an educational venue? Should I do a food seminar? Yes, it's going to be a little bit different audience at both, but ultimately the mentality of the client base has changed a little bit. So key benefits of seminars, you're going to get local prospects. If you're very interested in meeting someone in person down the line, local prospects when you do a seminar. We're typically seeing a higher appointment set ratio at a seminar than a webinar, and you're able to hold your audience's attention longer for a better chance at rapport, right? A seminar can go 90 minutes in some cases, especially if there's dinner, whereas a webinar, 45 minutes, let them ask some questions and let them bounce out, right? So those are the kind of the key benefits for seminars. Now, webinars, this is what we've learned. Be very wary of companies that promise high registration numbers. There's some very easy tactics through social media to make things too easy to sign up, where registration numbers skyrocket, but attendance numbers plummet. So be very wary of what a registration means if that's how you're purchasing your webinar. Shorten your presentation. Again, 45 minutes max. You want to keep their attention. You want to keep that engagement going. Engagement is absolutely key, but it's not correlated with a live presentation. It's correlated with polls and chats and pop-up. Okay, so the only benefit, or the only difference I'll say, between doing it live and then rebroadcasting or recording, the only difference is if you're If you do it live, you have an option that you have the opportunity to have some tech failure or something could go wrong, or you might not hit a point exactly how you wanted to. Whereas if you're recorded ahead of time, you can edit it, you can audit it, you can make sure you said exactly everything that you wanted to say, make sure it's very high converting. When we run webinars, we've done about 4,000 of them so far. We do that with every single one. The advisor sends it to us recorded. We go through all of those 4,000 webinars we've watched. And we said, these are the ones that were high converting. These are the ones that didn't convert. Here's all the things that this webinar did that this one didn't. And when you record it, you send it to us. We will go through that and say, this was good, this was great, this was okay, but you totally missed this part over here. Let's go back and fix that. Okay, we're seeing about an 85% fulfillment rate. So that means webinars are still filling up. People are still willing to sign up for webinars today, even though live events are back. And about 83% of attendees will stay on the entire time, right? Some of them, show up a little bit late. Some of them leave just a little bit early. But 83% of those are staying on for the absolute entire event. And a lot of that comes down to those engagement options and, making sure that the presentation is very valuable to those potential clients. So webinar key benefits, unlimited inventory. It really is. If you are comfortable meeting people virtually, then you're not worried about saturation issues because you can just find a different affluent city that works well and run webinars in those cities. We have one advisor that's done 130 plus webinars with us. And he says, just find me new affluent areas, run my webinar, and I'm going to work the meetings afterwards. So there really is unlimited inventory if you can get comfortable seeing your prospects virtually. It's a true set it and forget it method, right? Your prospects still get to see you. They see your voice, they see your face, they hear your voice, and you get to get out in front of them. But like I said, you've recorded it, you've perfected it, you're rinse and repeat, and they just do that. So you can just go on about your day job. I always think if it was 2018 and I was talking to advisors and I said, hey, how about you give one seminar and I will book you meetings off that seminar for the rest of the year. I would have sold out that day. But since 2020 forced webinars upon us, they've had this just very negative connotation about them from the advisor community. And at that same time, March of 2020, there was a bunch of, these flash in the pan companies that promised high registrations. And I'll be honest, I know a lot of advisors that got burned. They went out with somebody that wasn't tried and true. They said, oh, this company promised 100 registrations for $2, and I signed up and it was great, and I got 100 registrations, but nobody showed up. Webinars don't work. It's a waste of my time, right? So I understand those feelings, but now that we've been doing this long enough, we've done 4,000 of these things successfully. So they do work. And if you're avoiding speaking to your prospects virtually, you either there's two things you have to get comfortable with, right? Either you get comfortable speaking virtually to your prospects, or you have to get comfortable with knowing they're going to speak to a different professional, because there's a certain subset of your ideal client that will want to meet virtually. So what we're seeing as far as event performance, webinars have a slightly smaller or slightly lower attendance rate than in-person seminars. So be wary of that. Just keep that in mind when you're taking registrations for those things. For us, you're only paying on actual households that attend. So a lower attendance rate just means we have to take more registrations. That onus is on us. If you're looking to get back out and do seminars, what we're seeing is the best performing venues, community centers, libraries, restaurants are working well for the reasons I mentioned before. I would also say things like theaters and art centers that still have a non-salesy mentality, a non-salesy image, but give a little bit more space. Those are actually working very well as we see. Worst performing venues. If you want to have a poor attended event, host it in your office, host it in the beautiful conference room that's down the hall from your office. Okay, anything that screams an advisor is presenting this and it could be a sales position that I'm put in, they might sign up, but they're not going to attend. Okay, and that goes for business centers and hotels as well. Hotels got a pretty bad rap from all the bait and switch seminars from years and years ago, where they'd sign up for a Social Security event, and all of a sudden, 6 minutes in, it's a full annuity pitch, right? So business centers, hotels, anything correlated to your office, near your office, it doesn't matter how gorgeous the space is. I hear this all the time. We have this gorgeous space. We just invested thousands of dollars in this gorgeous conference room inside our office, and we want to host seminars there. That is perfect for client events. And we're going to talk about that later, of why you should do client events and why they should still be educational. That's perfect for that. And having your clients bring in their family, having their clients bring in their friends, that's perfect in your office. That's great. If you were doing marketing to get someone to come to an educational event, it's all about their comfort. And their comfort level is going to skyrocket when they don't feel like they're going to get sold to. And a business center, hotel, your office or convention center all send the wrong message. So look at community centers, libraries, restaurants. Now, let's talk about quickly, we'll talk about the topics. And now this goes for webinars or seminars and what we're seeing. So these 3 topics are consistently the best performing topics on a regular basis. Social Security, we've seen a huge resurgence in Social Security interest over this last year. Taxes and retirement has been the most requested topic by advisors for probably the last 3 years. Obviously, the tax implications in someone with significant assets that as they go into retirement are huge, and they'll have some concerns over that. But I will mention that if White Glove does 100 events a month, 85 of them are taxes. So that is a great topic if that's what you're comfortable with, and that's the pivot that you want, right? Is an easier pivot than some of the other things. But I will say, if you want to stand out from the guy down the street, take a look at estate planning. And the interesting thing about estate planning is that the consumer demand for this is actually outpacing the advisor supply. And what I mean by that is, where do affluent prospects get estate planning advice? Where do they get knowledge? Where do they get taught the strategies behind estate planning? And some of you might be thinking, well, they get it from the estate planning attorney, but they don't. No one is actively going out there and teaching them. Where do estate planning attorneys get their leads? Well, from you guys, from advisors, because they hit that point where they need an estate plan, and advisors and CPAs, they just send them leads all day. So estate planning attorneys aren't actively out there marketing and teaching their community about the tactics behind estate planning. And advisors haven't quite yet jumped on to understanding the pivot between an estate plan and a financial plan, right? There's a gap there where, yes, they're going to want to know, they're going to have questions about wills and probate and how to set up a trust, right? But if you think about that conversation, the only way to know how to take those assets and make sure they get down to the grandchildren is to understand those assets and understand the financial plan behind that. So you have to learn how to do that pivot. And it is different than a taxes pivot. It's different than a Social Security pivot. But we're seeing that attendance and fulfillment is stronger in estate planning, even higher than taxes and retirement. Less than 12% of the events that we do are on estate planning. So this allows you to stand out from your competition. We also typically see that estate planning has the highest average net worth in those classrooms. So whether it's a webinar or seminar, these are the 3 best performing topics: Social Security, estate planning, taxes. Definitely give estate planning a thought if that's something you'd be comfortable bringing into your practice and talking about with your prospects. So let's talk about purchasing leads. Benefits of that, they're usually cheaper than a seminar or filling a webinar, but you have to do the additional work, right? There's going to be additional follow-up that's needed to secure those appointments, especially when you're buying them from lead sources that are not exclusive. I know there's a few business models out there where someone fills out a calculator, then that lead is then given to 3 or 4 advisors in the area, and it's kind of who calls at the right time to get that person on the calendar, right? Or did everybody call and we annoyed them and now they're never going to pick up the phone? But one thing when you're looking at lead generation companies, regardless of who you use, make sure you fully understand the why that person is a lead. Okay, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of places that might sell annuity leads. What they did was they bought the Google word annuity, and when somebody Googled it, they offered here's a white paper on annuities. Take a look and read it. They had to enter their information to get that. Now that's considered a lead. They've never once opted in for a conversation. They've never once said, "Hey, somebody give me a call." Though they might know someone might be calling because they had to have their phone number in there, they're never raising their hand and saying, "I want an appointment." So just ask a few more questions when people say, "Hey, I have annuity leads to sell you," or I have this great database of leads that I want to sell you. Just make sure you understand what that lead is opting into so you can address and adapt your approach based on what they're signing up for. You know, you might be able to call those annuity leads and say, "Hey, I know you recently read the white paper. I wanted to see if you have any questions on it," right? Something like that may work out for you, but just ensure that you know why that person is now a lead. Now, I said we would talk about this a little bit earlier. Something White Glove is rolling out here, probably Q4 or a little bit later, is our consultation packs. And what this is we're using the same kind of marketing knowledge we have to fill seminars and webinars, but now instead of offering an event, we're offering that same ideal prospect a 30-minute video call with a professional. Before they ever make it onto your calendar, we qualify them and we verify them, and then we book it directly on your calendar. We actually attend the Zoom meeting with you and do a nice warm introduction. And even with our skills and prowess at this service, we're seeing about a 40% attendance rate. So it is kind of a white glove level lead service, because 60% of these people you're still going to have to follow up with and get an appointment. But when they're booking with us, they're raising their hand and saying, "I have concerns over this particular topic." You know, maybe it's taxes and retirement, maybe it's 401k or IRA concerns, or even estate planning, something like that. And they're saying, "I'd love to speak to a professional." That's how we're generating those things. So not quite available yet. We do have a wait list coming. If you want more information on that, please feel free to reach out to me. I can show you how that program is going to work here in the future. But just back to the purpose, when you're building or buying leads, just make sure you're asking, well, what constitutes a lead? You know, is it someone that read a paper and never wants to speak to an advisor? Is it someone that says, "Hey, I want to speak to an advisor," and has no information? Is it someone who knows who you are, right? If you can get warm introductions, that's always king when it comes to the lead generation game. So we've talked about building that funnel. We've talked about filling that funnel with leads. And probably the most overlooked and often most important step is nurturing those leads. Like I mentioned earlier, 40 registrations turns into 20 attendees, turns into 10 appointments, turns into 2 clients, and 38 other registrations from that event go in the trash without proper nurturing. And what we're going to cover today is 6 key conversion factors when it comes to nurturing leads. First, consistency. You have to consistently stay in front of them. Automate that where possible so you don't have to forget and it's not very laborious, but consistently staying in front of them on those channels that we talked about earlier. That's where you're going to see higher conversions. Because again, it's not always going to be that same day, right? They might not need your help today, but in 6 months, 8 months, 2 years from now, who are they going to reach out to when they have questions? So you have to stay consistent. And the easiest way to do that is automate things if possible, so that you're not putting the burden totally on yourself. Second, value-driven messaging. So this can't always be exactly what you do in your day job. It can't always be, you know, I talked to a lot of Medicare agents recently, and they're very focused on, I want Medicare content, Medicare content, Medicare content. And that has its place. I will tell you, it has its place. But if I don't want to read that content on a Monday, I'm not going to read it on Tuesday. And by Wednesday, you're no longer even relevant to them, right? It's gone. You're gone, deleted, spammed. You're not on my Facebook feed anymore. So you have to mix it up and lead with value. And when you're leading with value, think about what your ideal prospects might want to read. What are they interested in? What did they sign up for in the first place? What is important today? What information could set you apart compared to all the other advisors that they might be hearing from, right? They're getting their news from Facebook. Oftentimes, sometimes that generates a lot of concerns. if you can be there to help educate with value-driven messaging, maybe it doesn't have anything to do with what you do for your day job, but if it helps ease their mind with some concerns that they're having, that helps you stay top of mind. So when something that you do comes up, they can reach out to you. And you have to make it easy for them to take action, because in that moment when they say, you know what, I have a question, the last thing you want them to do is say, well, I don't know how to get a hold of them. Right? When they have that split second of, you know what, I really should talk to somebody, they should be able to click a button and get on your calendar, click a button and give you a phone call. Like we talked about earlier, those, LinkedIn, Facebook, Google My Business, put your calendar on there, get them to be able to see it, make sure it's on your website, make sure it's in your emails. That's the easiest way. And you could have a general calendar, right, that goes to, your director of first impressions or whatever. But make sure that they can take that action as easy as possible when that moment strikes. Branding. So when you're sharing content, and we talked a lot about this yesterday, there's a transference of credibility if there's two things that are shared: content and then your branding. If you send people to websites to read content that's branded with a bunch of other stuff, or hit them with ads or paywalls or any of that stuff, you've lost all of that ability. If you can keep them reading a value-driven article and seeing your face, there's this natural transference of credibility that happens. You didn't write it. You don't have to write it. You can share a Forbes article, New York Times, something like that. You can share a great blog post that somebody else had written, right? But when they're reading that and they're taking that information in and they see your face, there's this transference of credibility. You didn't have to write it, but you shared it, right? You found it, you know it, you shared it. That's what helps with that branding, right? But you don't want to send them off to somewhere else where they're going to get hit with other ads, other potential competitors. Keep that stuff branded to yourself. And personality. You have to have a little bit of personality when it comes to these different channels. Have a bit of a voice. Now, be likable, right? That's like the number one thing. But people do business with those that they know, they like, and that they trust. And you can't get there if you were a cookie cutter financial advisor just like everybody else, right? They have to know a little bit about you. They have to like those things about you, and you have to build trust with them. So in your outreach, in your nurturing, there has to be a little bit of personality in there. And that worked great on Facebook when you're doing personalized posts about, people in the office, that sort of thing. Show the new puppy that, they got the COVID puppies, do something like that. But you have to have a little bit of personality in there, right? And that'll get people to like you. And when they know you and they like you, that's when they can start trusting you. And that's when they're going to start doing business with you, is when they can trust you. Okay. And everything, you have to be out there on every single channel that you can, right? Multi-channel, omni-channel, wherever you can get, right? That's going to be emails, regular emails for nurturing. And again, don't get bummed out if people don't read it. I get emails every single day from some brands that I love, and I don't read those emails, but I remember they exist, right? And then when I am in the market for that particular type of service or product, then I'm going to read that email, right? So even if they don't read it, they're going to see it and they're going to remember that you exist. And if that email has very valuable content in it, then you're going to increase the likelihood that you're going to read it. That's the increasing the likelihood that they're going to share it, right? But same kind of content strategy when it comes to social media, depending on, your level of comfort with this prospect or client. Phone calls are always important, especially when something crazy happens. I know far too many professionals in this business when something bad happens, that they kind of stay the heck away from their clients, right? They want that to settle down because they're afraid they're going to get yelled at because the market did this or this or this. But that's the time you make that phone call, right? And you make sure that they feel comforted. They make sure that you're there, because if they have questions and you're not available, they're going to get answers somewhere else. And then finally, events. Have client events, something that they can invite their friends to, something that they can brag about to similar people than them, right? To say, hey, I was just at the zoo and we did this great client event with my financial advisor. And then the person says, oh, I need a financial advisor, right? Or educational events. You do these things to get prospects in the door, but you should also be doing, you have that great convention center in your office, maybe. That's where you should be hosting client events. Bring them in, do a generational planning, right? And have your clients bring in their grown children, right? It's a great way to get in front of people, but emails, social calls, events, all of things blend together to have a very robust nurturing. And again, just make sure it's easy for people to connect with you. Your calendar, your phone number, all of that stuff should just be, through your email, through your social media, all that stuff, just set that up. Because you never know, if it's not now that they want to talk to you, it's when, right? They're going to talk to somebody. They're going to be able to get their questions answered, right? Information is free. So when they do that, if you have all those multi-channels in place, the emails, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, newsletters, if you have that stuff, then you're going to be able to take an opportunity and cultivate it into a client. And ultimately what you want to do is, our last step here, is turn those opportunities into actual advocates. And what that means is, an opportunity, it may lead to a sale, but an advocate represents ongoing growth. And we're going to tell you how to do that here. So if you stop at the sale, you're missing ongoing growth. So if you want to turn a lead, a prospect, an opportunity, a sale into an advocate, there's four main points that we're going to cover today. First, showcase your personality, right? We talked about this just a few slides ago, but they need to know you, they need to like you, they need to trust you. And the more they feel like there's a personal bond, the more likely they are to refer you or say how great you are, right? If you can showcase that personality. I was recently doing a podcast, and I was on with a guest, and he said it's a numbers game, but it's a relationship business. And I love that, right? It's all about those relationships, and you have to showcase your personality a little bit to open that up. And you do that in as many ways as possible, right? Because when they know you, they like you and trust you, then they're going to advocate for you. You have to give ongoing value. And what that means is giving without expectations. I have many clients that'll do client events. I got some that don't. I got some that, they sold what they were there to sell, and then they want to do more and more and more. But if you can give value without any expectations of something reciprocal, right? It's not, hey, I'm going to invite you to this event, bring all your friends because I want to work with them too, right? Yes, I know that that's an effective way to get in front of new people sometimes, but if you just give value, I'm a firm believer in this mentality. If you just give value, you give information, you help people, that's going to make you more easily to be referred. Then you're going to get an advocate. Hey, I just learned all these great things about Social Security from my financial advisor. Right? What? I mean, you already work with the guy. Why would he be talking to you about that? Ed Slott always says that your prospects are still, or your clients are still 80% prospect, because they're still shopping around. They still have money elsewhere that they're not giving you. But more than that, they still need that nurturing, right? A big part of that could be client events with both fun stuff, right? Take them to the zoo, do a movie night if those things are back in your area yet. But also, do the educational content, because I can't tell you how many times we host a seminar for an advisor and we're bringing in new prospects, and they say, hey, my client was here. What's going on? My client was here. And it's like, well, yeah, but your client signed up for an event they didn't know you were speaking at. And we call that a flight risk here at White Glove. But basically what that is that advisor is looking to get new business, but their client business they already have had concerns over taxes and retirement. They had concerns over their estate plan, and they were going to go out and find another professional to talk to. So if you're not educating your current clients, then you are potentially going to lose them. And 70% of clients that leave their financial advisor say they do it because of lack of communication, right? That could be something as simple as that phone call when the markets are tanking. It could be as simple as, a newsletter that explains the new tax implications that are coming out with all the new plans. It could be a client event where, they have concerns over generational wealth, and you invite them and their adult children to come in and learn about these things. Those are all ways you can communicate. And then they see you on Facebook, they see you on LinkedIn, they get the email newsletter, you make a call once in a while, you meet with them virtually. All of those things help turn a sales opportunity into someone who would advocate for you when they have somebody that comes in with a similar situation. And the nice thing about doing that omni-channel approach, like I mentioned earlier, is I might never say to my friend, hey, give Dean a call. He's a great financial advisor. I might not feel comfortable doing that. But you know what? If Dean did a podcast or a webinar, or he shared an article with me that had great content in it, and I said, you know what? I bet my friend would benefit from reading this, from knowing this, for understanding that. And I share, that's easy for me to share. Hey, go check out this podcast. It was great. That's something very easy to share. And when you brand it and you put your calendar on there, that's how you generate more referrals in a very soft and welcoming way. And the last thing I'll talk about is how to turn a sales opportunity into an advocate is the Ford method. And I stole this from my good friend Luke Acree of Reminder Media. I don't think he invented it, but he's a big believer in it, and it shows. But the Ford method is knowing about your clients, about their family, know about their occupation, know about their recreation, what they like doing in their downtime, and know about their dreams. Okay. If you know those 4 things about someone, and guess what? You put them in your CRM, right? So now you have your contact record, your opportunity, and you put in, hey, this is what their family looks like. This is what they do for their day job. This is what they like doing recreationally. And this is where they want to be, right? This is where they want to get to. If you know those 4 things about a prospect, about your clients, and you can connect with them on any of those points on a regular ongoing basis, that's what builds that relationship. And once you have a relationship, that turns a sales opportunity into an advocate for you. So family, occupation, recreation, dreams, the Ford method, put that in your CRM, track this stuff and pay attention. I have a lot of contacts in the industry. Sometimes it's just hard, right? To remember, did you have 2 daughters or 1? And so-and-so had a baby a little, but what was their name, right? I remember they like baseball, but I don't remember baseball team, right? Like just jot that stuff down, write that stuff down, put it in your CRM, and, become better friends, become better connections with these people so you can relate to them on those 4 key points. You're going to have an advocate and not a sales opportunity. So we're going to wrap up here today. Just showcasing, I'm hoping that this week has been very powerful for some of you. Please connect with me on LinkedIn if you want more information. I'm an open book. I'm always here to help. I do have a podcast. Be advised. Feel free to check that out as well. Give that a listen if you're after this week you're not tired of hearing my voice. We bring on some amazing guests like the Tom Hegnas and Ed Slots of the world, and Luke Acree from Ryan Readers on there, and a lot of just expert advisors that are crushing it today, talking about what they have found works. So I hope you learned some of the ways to build an effective marketing plan, right? You have to set that funnel first before you waste money on leads. And you have to have effective ways to fill that pipeline. Nurturing is so important because it's not always right now. It's maybe in 6 months, maybe in 2 years. And then if you can convert those opportunities into more than just a sale, but into an actual advocate for you, that's where you're going to see tremendous growth. So White Glove is here to support on all of those fronts. We can help you get a very robust virtual presence, lead capture with our Social Connect program. That will also help with nurturing and content we create and curate all of that for you. And it covers your social, your websites, and emails. White Glove runs that with a human being, a professional that runs that Social Connect program for less than it would cost you to get a coffee dropped off at your office every single day, and less than it costs to hire the college kid to come in and do your social media part-time. Filling your pipeline, White Glove supports with seminars that are 100% done for you. You pay after the event, and you only pay on the people that attend. Webinars, same business model. We do absolutely all of the work. You record it ahead of time, then you get back to your day job and we'll book you appointments throughout the webinars. And now our lead program with those consultation packs that should be coming out here in Q4. Very excited. There's a current wait list for that, but if you're interested in that, please reach out. And again, I'm hoping this is very helpful. The idea is to turn opportunities into advocates by having that effective marketing plan. Set your funnel, fill your pipeline, make sure to nurture and get that advocate to see continued growth. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, please let me know. And it's been a powerful week. I've had a lot of fun doing this with everybody. And I hope that this has been very beneficial. And you know what? None of this is worth anything unless you take action, right? If you're in constant research mode and you never take action, then your life will not change. So hopefully you jotted down some of those action items that I ran through today, the simple things like posting something on Facebook, reviewing your LinkedIn, see if your Google page exists, that sort of stuff. But throughout the week, we covered a lot of ideas. We covered a lot of paths to take. Nothing will change your business unless you actually take action. So thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to wrap up. Again, Brad Swinehart, if you have any other question, please feel to reach out to me directly. My contact information is right on LinkedIn there. Go stalk me on there. Take a listen to the podcast if you're interested. And please, if you're looking to grow your business, if you're looking for someone to be your partner in marketing, please see whiteglove.com. Shoot us an email at info@whiteglove. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. This is Beth with NAFA. We appreciate you being here all week with us, and everybody's learned a lot. I know I have. And we will have these recordings available next week as well if you want to go back and revisit anything. Thanks so much.